Am I the a-hole for not wanting to live with a newborn? In May, my 23 male brother Louis, 16 male, shocked us all by telling us that his girlfriend, 16 female, was pregnant. Our parents were far from supportive. After many arguments, my mother made him leave and our father refused to take him in. Since last August, he has lived with me and my housemate, Alex, 23 male. He doesn't pay rent, but will pay me for groceries. In January, the baby was born. My nephew lives primarily with his mother, who Louis sees every day after school, and on the weekends he comes to my flat. This was not something Louis ever asked me about. He just turned up with a baby, and it has been a nightmare. He cries all throughout the night, keeping me and Alex up. He smells rancid and spits. He causes more washing up than we've ever had to do before, and there are no benefits to having him in the house. After a month, I decided that this has to stop. Louis will have to just spend a few nights a week at his girlfriend's house to spend time with his son, but he can't keep bringing him to mine. He was unhappy, but reluctantly agreed. Despite this weekend he turned up with a baby. Again. He attempted to smuggle him unnoticed, but his crying alerted us to his presence. Louis told me that his girlfriend had refused to agree with my idea and had forced him to take the baby home with him. When he came back from the baby's mother's on Monday, Alex and I told him in no uncertain terms that if he brought the baby here again, he would no longer be welcome. We both work shifts, so sometimes we don't get back until 4 or 5 in the morning, and we need to sleep. At first, Louis refused to respect this and argued, but he has since reluctantly agreed and told his girlfriend that their son is unwelcome here. His girlfriend wasn't happy with us and is taking it out on him. I know that they are young, exhausted, and stressed all the time, so I feel bad for making Louis's life even harder. But his burden quickly became our burden too, and that was not something I nor my housemate agreed to. I feel like if we had had a chance to come to an agreement before the baby actually arrived, maybe this would have been easier. But Louis never spoke to me about it. Am I the a-hole? Edited to Ed. We never thought that him living here would be a long-term solution. His girlfriend's father tried to set them up with the flats before the due date, but that fell through. We tried speaking with our mother about charging him rent, but she refused to let him move back in. Now for the top comments. No a-holes here. Your brother is young and I respect him for stepping up, but he does need to understand his child shouldn't be affecting your life. The only a-holes here are your parents who believe it's okay to kick out their minor child. I respect him too. We know of people who were made single parents at 18 because of similar situations. Yeah, I didn't expect my mother to stick to that. I always thought she'd let him back in. You really need to tell your parents that kicking out their minor child with zero support can actually be illegal in some states as child mistreatment, provided you are in the States. I hope you call CPS on your horrible parents. To add, I think you were in the UK. I think it's still illegal there. Not the a-hole. The actual a-holes in this situation are your parents. He's their child and their responsibility. And since they didn't teach him to know better than to knock up his girlfriend at 16, the baby's their responsibility too. It would be optimal if you and Alex could talk to him now and work out a solution to this, so Louis can still bring your nephew home sometimes, but not required. I will note that someone needs to help those kids with how to do childcare. If the baby smells rancid and if he's crying that much, there may be a medical issue. But if there is, it may or may not be solvable in a way that isn't just he'll grow out of it eventually. Babies should not smell rancid. Babies should smell delightful unless they just pooped, and then they should be cleaned and smell great again. They do know babies have to be washed, right? Yeah, sex education seems to be awful here. My mother knows 2 girls who had kids at 17, and now my brother has a son at 16. It's likely to be that this house is not baby-friendly. At his girlfriend's, they have loads of stuff to care for him. Here, we have nothing, so it's likely not the best environment. I have no idea what they do or don't know, to be honest. I have brought up the smell before, but he gets defensive. Not stay home. Louis and his girlfriend should have considered that termination or adoption would be more practical solutions, not to mention using contraception correctly, or getting the morning after pill if there was an issue. I hope he's being decent enough by having Louis live with him. The baby is not his problem. It is especially not his housemate's problem. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for favoring my daughter over my half-sister? Hi, So, quick context. My dad remarried when I, 40s female, was in my 20s. Dad had a daughter, Kaylee, with his wife, who also had 2 older kids. Around that time, I was setting up my family and had my older daughter, Charlotte, a couple months before Kaylee was born. I was not very involved in his family. We would talk a couple times a year, exchange Christmas cards, but I didn't really get close to Kaylee. A couple years ago, my dad passed away, and when Kaylee was 16, her mom also got sick and passed. My stepmother's other 2 kids were still in college/young adults when this happened, so I was approached to take care of Kaylee, as I was the most settled in life, had a house, job, and 2 kids. Truthfully, it wasn't something I really wanted to do, but she would have otherwise ended up in the system. My husband and I took her in and have always treated her the same as our daughters. She got an allowance, extracurriculars, and tutoring when necessary. The only issue was that we had 3 bedrooms. Charlotte was uncomfortable sharing with a stranger and chose to bunk with her younger sister, so Kaylee got a room to herself. My girls didn't complain and have always been welcoming to Kaylee. It was always planned that when Kaylee turned 18/graduated high school, she would go to her other siblings and perhaps attend college there. However, she asked to stay an extra year with us due to wanting to move in with her boyfriend here and needing to save up. We agreed, but decided to fix up our basement into an apartment for Charlotte so she and her sister would finally have their own space. When Kaylee found out about the apartment, she was upset that it had not been offered to her and her boyfriend. We discussed the room situation, and I thought it had been settled. However, she recently moved out suddenly, leaving only a note stating that we clearly didn't think of her as being part of the family. I feel pretty horrible, and I'm wondering if I was an a-hole. Not the a-hole. You took in a teenager you didn't want nor had an obligation to. She got her own room in your house, fed, clothed, schooled, and provided for. When she, on her own, decided she wanted to stay longer, you agreed. Making up a room/place in the basement is logical if your girls are growing and need some space from each other, and you suddenly have a prolonged house guest who had her own room. Your half-sister seems a little entitled, frankly. She's definitely entitled, but I hope Obi grants her some kind thoughts. Though Obi was more than good enough to her. Definitely not the a-hole and certainly did more than most would have. She was a teenager who lost her family quite suddenly and was shoved into another house where she didn't fit in. I can't imagine how that feels. Not the a-hole. You are under no obligation to take in a boyfriend. The apartment is not showing favorites. Kaylee needs to take on full responsibility if she wants to play house with her boyfriend. If she was your eldest daughter, I would say the same. No boyfriends in my house. Go ahead and thumbs down Reddit. My house, my rules. No boyfriends in my house. I would like to know when it became a requirement to house someone's boyfriend. Opie took in her half-sister who she didn't have a relationship with. Your children who would have had their own rooms now have to share. Your family made sacrifices for this girl that you truly didn't have to. Her sense of entitlement is a bit much. She is an adult. I know that I'm going to get downvoted for this, but Opie's allowed to choose her daughters over her half-sister. Although I really don't think that is what is happening in this situation. Kaylee needs the reminder that Opie's her sister, and at one point her guardian. Guardian and mother are not the same thing. Opie provided Kaylee with a home and made her feel like one of the family. However, feeling like one of the family does not mean feeling that your sister should treat you the same as their actual children. Those are different types of love, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Charlotte has shared a room for 2+ years with her younger sister to give Kaylee her own space. Kaylee was always planned to move out at/around 18, so I don't really see how Charlotte getting the downstairs apartment isn't fair. You were nice enough to take a stranger into your home, clothe, house, and feed them until a predetermined time. I'd call you saints instead of being ungrateful. Next story. Am I the a-hole for being angry with my husband and mother-in-law for choosing the name for our daughter? I, 28 female, and my husband, 28 male, are expecting our first child together. Our daughter's due date is approaching, and I'm feeling very nervous and anxious. My husband and I decided on naming our daughter Anne after my grandmother. I spent most of my childhood and teen years with my grandparents. I was extremely close with my grandmother, and was devastated when she passed away in 2016 from lung cancer. We live close to my grandfather and visit him on a daily basis, and it means so much to my grandfather that we are naming our daughter Anne. My mother-in-law and I are cordial when we get together. My husband is her only child, and she feels like since I stepped into his life, their relationship changed. He is still very close with her, but he doesn't visit often because of the pregnancy. Mother-in-law invited us over for a small dinner party, and I thought it was going to be a pleasant evening. When we sat down for dinner, my mother-in-law turns to me and says, "Your husband and I spoke this past week, and he told me that you were going to be changing her name to be after me." I could feel my anxiety level rising and said, "No, we were still planning on keeping her name to be Anne, right?" I gave my husband a look and he doesn't say anything. My mother-in-law makes a face and says, "Well, it seems like husband is not on board with her name." I finished eating and told husband that we were leaving. We get into the car, and husband tries to apologize. I told him that I was angry with him for not discussing with me, and even more upset with mother-in-law. Mother-in-law sent me a few text messages regarding my behavior that evening, and hopes I will change my mind. Am I the a-hole for being angry with my husband and mother-in-law for choosing the name for our daughter? Now for the top comments. Not a-hole. I don't get why you're acting like they made a definitive choice. Your mother-in-law can say whatever stupid crap she wants. That doesn't mean you have to listen. I'm really disappointed by how your husband is behaving. This exactly. The baby hasn't arrived and the name isn't on the birth certificate. Therefore, Opie and husband can sit down and discuss things. Just because mother-in-law says whatever doesn't mean that's the way it has to be. Not a-hole. It is completely unacceptable for your husband and a third party to decide anything about your child without consulting you. If you let this slide, in any way, I bet your mother-in-law will think she can run your life and decide how your child is raised too. Put your foot down as hard as you can. Quit reading this and do it now. You need to send a clear message to mother-in-law that you and husband are a couple and will make your own decisions and she cannot overrule you. You don't want this to be the start of many announcements of mother-in-law's changes in the future. Not a-hole. Tell the nurses in the delivery room not to let your husband sign a birth certificate. Also, this may be the start of her bulldozing your husband. I suggest r/just no mother-in-law. Not a-hole. You already agreed. Don't sign a birth certificate without the right name on it, and make your wishes known to the nurses ahead of time. Definitely going to be doing that. I'm worried that husband will try to tell them a different name while I'm in labor. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for getting offended at my husband's suggestion that I only take 2 weeks of maternity leave? I, 25 female, am currently 25 weeks pregnant with my husband, 34 male, and I's first child. We have been together for 5 years, married for almost 2. Baby is growing on track. We've already painted the nursery, and my mother-in-law is excitedly planning the baby shower. I have a full-time office job while he has been working from home since the first lockdown. We were talking about our parental leaves, and we agreed that we wouldn't take it simultaneously. We were good until I said, "Do you want to do 2 weeks first, then I do mine, then you do 6 weeks after?" I just stood silently staring at him for 5 minutes. I told him I think he's being ignorant and selfish. He said, "What? I don't know how long you need to recover." I don't even know why we're still talking about this. He works for an international company where they get 3 months paid paternity leave. Meanwhile, I work for a small business which only offers 6 to 8 weeks of unpaid maternity leave. He has been anticipating his paternity leave since I got pregnant because he sees it as an opportunity to seriously start looking for another job. He has been with the company for 9 years and has been feeling burnt out. Lately, his frustrations have been compounded by his new manager being difficult. I've been very supportive of his goal of finding a job where he can be fulfilled and appreciated, as I can sense that he's not happy at his job anymore. He also said that his current company will be considering him for a better position once he gets back from his paternity leave, so that gets him kind of excited. We have a 6-figure income combined. I paid a mortgage while he takes care of the other bills. We have money in the bank, stocks, cars paid off. I don't think my maternity leave being unpaid is an issue because my savings could cover the 2 months that I wouldn't get a paycheck. I didn't talk to him after his remark. He went to play video games on his computer while I folded his clothes. I slept on the couch and still have not talked to him at breakfast. He tried talking to me as I was about to leave for work, but I just noped out of the house. I am upset that he doesn't think that I deserve to get some downtime after giving birth to recover and spend time with our kid. I feel like he thinks growing an entire human being inside your body and then having to push that baby out is not a big deal. Maybe because I never complain about anything. I do 90% of the chores around the house, even carrying laundry from our bedroom at the top floor down to the basement to get them washed, then back up the stairs to get them folded and put away. I feel like my in-laws are more concerned about my well-being than he is. My father-in-law even bought us a litter robot, so I won't have to clean after our cats. My family lives a few continents away, so I don't have a huge support system here. Not stay home. Your husband is woefully mistaken about what is possible during a paternity leave. First off, where I live, what you are getting doesn't even qualify for maternity leave. It's what's considered medically necessary leave to recover from childbirth. Is your husband even aware that he will be providing full-time care while he's off? Because it seems like he thinks this is a free vacation and not a responsibility. Absolutely. Well said. Is he prepared for the commitment a 2-week-old baby needs? Yes. They sleep all day, but come sunset? Wow. When do we tell him about the witching hour? There is no way a doctor will medically clear her for 6 weeks anyway, no matter how committed to baby care he is. I don't understand why he isn't taking his leave concurrently with hers. It is way easier to tag team overnights the first few weeks. We did this so that each of us got an unbroken 4+ hour stretch of sleep each. Not stay home. So you are the one who is going to push the baby through your V, but you only get 2 weeks to rest? And then is going to take 3 months of paternity leave and take that time to look for another job. Who is going to look after the baby and take care of the house while you work? And looks for a job and potentially goes on interviews. And why on earth are you folding his freaking clothes while he plays video games? You're going to be a single mother really quick. Not stay home. Does your husband think paternity leave is a vacation time for him? Who is going to be watching/taking care of your child during this time? He'll be playing video games and looking for jobs online while she does everything. First story is titled, "Am I the a-hole for pressing charges against my mom?" I'm not sure if the title is the right way to word it, but hear me out. I, 21 female, found out 5 days ago that my mom, 50 female, lied to me about my tax refund last year and had the money direct deposited into her bank account. She and I are not on talking terms, as she borrowed $200 from me in early January and refused to pay me back, even though this is the only time I've ever asked for it back. Since we are not talking, I had to attempt to file my taxes on my own now. She's always done my family's, 28 female, 30 female, and I taxes. So when it was rejected because I couldn't remember my AGI for 2020, I had to request a transcript to figure it out. Although, I ended up finding out I had received quite a large refund in the account it was deposited in. Immediately, I called her to ask her what the hell? Why did you do this? She declined. I texted her several times, no response. I called my oldest sister, 30 female, to try and get in contact with her that I need to talk to her ASAP. Mom then blocks her and blocks me across social media. That all happened last Friday. So coming to this last Monday, I called the IRS, panicking and trying to figure out what I should do. Can I even do anything? Lady on the phone guides me to fill out some forms and contact the Federal Trade Commission with identity theft, although I don't know if that's what it is. I fill out all sorts of stuff and to file a police report. I called my oldest sister again. She says it's not going to go anywhere, waste of my time, etc., and I'm just going to ruin my relationship with mom. My other sister is fully supportive and encourages me to do what I feel like I need to do. Coming to yesterday, I went to the police station and gave them copies of all my paperwork, proof money went into her account, her info, etc. The detective called me and let me know they have everything they need and are going to arrest her, and suddenly I feel bad. Should I just let it go? My refund was nearly $2,000, and I could have really used it as I had just been laid off due to COVID-19 at the time. My oldest sister's kind of at my throat, and I don't know what to do. I've given her over $5,000 over the last 3 years and feel like she just used me even more than she already was. Am I the a-hole? Edited to add, my mom did get my stimulus checks as they were both mailed to me. Also, I understand that I should have checked her during my taxes. I was 19 at the time and didn't expect my mom to do me like that. I simply believed her. I'm glad you guys were all so smart and knew better at that age. I made a mistake, I get it. There's a chance she stole more. I didn't realize my federal returns and state returns were separate, and I only know the Fed amount. We'll be figuring out state amount on Monday. If you ask, and no, I don't live with her. I haven't since I was 16. Also, I've done a credit freeze, and everything on my credit report is things I've done or accounts I have open. Thanks so much, though. Now for the top comments. Not an a-hole. What the hell? She stole your money. You tried to talk to her and figure it out, but she refused. It is then on her to deal with the consequences. Good that you reported her, and shame on your sister for enabling your mom's behavior. Jumping on the top comment to add, don't back down and continue with the charges. She needs to learn her lesson. $2,000 is quite a bit of money to just be out of, especially right now. Yes, $2,000 stolen secretly from you by someone who then blocks your calls is a serious matter. But it also may not be the end of it. You don't know if she's stolen your identity and taken out loans in your name. You don't know what she may be doing and she won't talk to you. You are not ruining this relationship. If allowing someone to steal from you with no consequences is what it takes to maintain a relationship, it's not a relationship worth maintaining. Press charges, OP, not the a-hole. Not the a-hole? You aren't ruining the relationship by filing the report. She ruined it by stealing your identity and $2,000 from you. Try $7,000. Not the a-hole. You want to contact the Social Security Administration about getting a new Social Security number. Your mom has proven she can't be trusted and may use your financial information for her own gain. You need to make sure she can't do that in the future. I have my social card and my birth certificate, and I put a freeze on my credit and stuff. She hasn't taken anything out in my name yet, but I will call them about it. Thank you so much. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my father the true reason I never had friends growing up? First, let me apologize in advance for any grammar mistakes I might make. English isn't my native language. I come from a family of Japanese immigrants. My grandparents came to my country when my father was still a teen. Here is where he met my mother, got married, and where I was born. As a child, I was never a kid to have many friends, or any for that matter. Most people always thought that it was just a personality trait, but that's far from the truth. My father was a rough and stern man, and there's no way around it. Ever since I was young, his family and himself always tried to push certain things onto me. How I should behave, how I should be, how much effort I should put in my things and all that. Once I enrolled in school, things got progressively worse. He always pushed me to be the top of my classes, even when grades didn't really matter. I remember once, when I was roughly 8, I had a test. The subject was my native language, and I did score well. It was roughly 75%. I was having a hard time with it and struggling. That was the first time I was grounded for not being up to his standards. This was just the first of many to come. For him, anything less than a 95%, we don't use letter grades here, was not a good result, and I was punished / disciplined accordingly. I won't get into what happened as this isn't the place for that. Regardless, as cliche as this might sound, yes, I see the irony of it all. I became extremely introverted and would spend all my time studying. Not because I liked it, but because I was afraid of what could happen should I not do well. This was my daily life from infancy until I went to college. There, I had a lot more freedom and could for the first time be myself. Thankfully, I met some amazing people that I'm friends with until today, and also the woman who I'm now engaged to. Regardless of that, I always resented my family because of that. Since then, I got into therapy and I've been working my feelings out, but it is a slow process. However, a few days ago, my family invited me and my fiancé for a dinner at their house. I really didn't have an excuse to avoid it, thus we went. Things were alright for the most of it, until they started to talk about the past, and my father said something like, "Oh well, B was never a very friendly child. He used to stay locked up in his room all day long." At that moment, I felt so bad about myself that I couldn't keep quiet anymore, and I ended up telling him the reason. that he was the reason I suffered so much. Apparently, that came as shock to him. He said that he only tried to make sure I was going to have a good future. I ended up going home after an argument. But now, my family has taken to call me an ungrateful a-hole. My father hasn't said anything more than that. It's mainly everyone else. I can't help but feel bad about it. I could have probably kept that to myself. Anyway, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. And for what it's worth, I really didn't have an excuse to avoid it, thus we went. You don't need an excuse to decline invitations. Simply not wanting to go is sufficient. Glad to hear you're in therapy. Keep it up. It sounds like you're finally on a good path. You don't need an excuse to decline invitations. Simply not wanting to go is sufficient. Pfft, try telling that to my mother. Not the a-hole. You simply told the truth when your family was teasing you in front of your fiancé. It's basically another form of bullying from your father. You did what you needed to do. Stand up for yourself and stop his behavior. It doesn't matter what your father's intentions were in the past. He treated you poorly and bullied you, and he's still doing it. There's no excuse for that. He certainly doesn't have a good excuse now. Also, you don't need an excuse to decline going to dinner. A simple, sorry, I can't, or that doesn't work for me, or no, is all you need. Not the a-hole. Especially if this is something you had to work through in therapy. Your family should know how their actions affected you. It sounds like they are the ungrateful ones. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my dad last that I'm not moving back to my hometown? I, 20 female, moved away for college 2 years ago. This is going to be my final year. My dad expected me to move back to my hometown once I was finished because that's what his family does. They stay local, close to family, and that's it. But I knew I would be different. He and I don't have the best relationship, and I'm not at all close to his wife. So to me, a fresh start will be a really positive thing, and it has been. I told my grandparents and my aunt and uncle a while ago. My grandparents kind of knew. They brought it up that I was so much happier since I left, and I am. I am in a much better place. About a week ago, my dad asked me about moving back and told me my siblings missed me. They were on a video call, as was his wife, and that's when I broke it to him, because he was saying they had a planned trip in the summer and I could watch the kids for him. He was shocked, annoyed, and he hung up once he realized I was serious. Then he talked to my uncle and then my grandparents, and when he realized they knew, and my maternal family knew, he was super pissed. He felt like he should have been the first person I told and that we needed to discuss it. I told him there was nothing to discuss. That as an adult, I made a decision about where I live. He accused me of leaving my whole family behind, to which I replied I was near family, my mom's family. Things are still dicey, and I'm okay with that. They have never been so good that this would be really hard for me. But my aunt thinks I should have told him first, and before he brought it up. My dad said the same thing, so now I'm wondering if I did handle this badly. I think it was easier to tell everyone else first because I have more contact with them. I really don't talk to my dad all that much. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You're an adult coming home from college, not a middle schooler coming home from summer camp. Do what you want. Seems like he just wanted free babysitting. He wants to believe we have no issues. He always wanted to believe that. So he has ignored all the problems and then gets annoyed when they become impossible to ignore, or when he's reminded I'm not from his marriage to his wife. At the end of the day, you are your own person. The worst part of growing up is seeing your parents as people and all the problems that people have. Seems like you have family in other places. I wish you luck, friend. Not the a-hole. It sounds like he wanted a free babysitter, not a kid. My thoughts exactly. Move back. The kids miss you. Wife and I will even go on a trip by ourselves this summer, so your kids get to catch up. Not the a-hole. Honestly, I relate to this post a lot. I'm from a small town where none of my family members have ever lived more than an hour away from. After graduating high school, I moved across the country for university, and I have no intentions of ever living there again. I also experienced a similar sentiment from my family of, "Oh, can't we just discuss you staying here?" But I've never been happier than I am here, and clearly you feel the same way. Don't let others make you question making decisions that bring you happiness. Your dad has his own life to live. He doesn't need yours too. As for telling him sooner, I'd understand why he'd be upset if you two were close, but clearly you're not. He can't be affronted because he didn't tell him when it seems like he'd put little effort into improving your relationship before then. He can't pick and choose when you two are close. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter the truth about why I wasn't in her life? To start, my ex and I were 19 when she got pregnant. We had recently broken up and she found out a couple weeks later that she was pregnant. She said she planned to get a termination, but only wanted her sister there. So I was always under the belief that she had terminated. She only contacted me once saying it was done, and we didn't speak again. Fast forward 19 years later, I found out a month ago that was a lie. My ex passed away 3 years ago and my daughter Kara has been living with her uncle. He was the one to reach out to give me a heads up after she expressed an interest in wanting us to connect. He and I spoke at length because I was feeling some pretty strong emotions like rage for never being told about her. My ex had backed out of the procedure but didn't want me involved because we were broken up, so decided just not to tell me. But he told me that Kara doesn't know about that. Apparently, I wasn't ready for fatherhood because we were both young, so I bailed. I couldn't believe it. Rob, her uncle, told me he knows his sister was wrong for that, but promised Kara doesn't have negative feelings towards me, and my ex never painted me as some villain, just a young guy who knew he couldn't properly care for her. He asked me not to tell Kara this when we talk if she asks, and because it could hurt the way she saw her mom. I never actually confirmed I would. Kara messaged me, and we've been talking. I've met her twice, and it's been crazy emotional. Looking at this girl who looks just like me, and hurting that we're just barely getting to know each other. So far, our conversations have only been about what her life was like, how my life is, what her wants/future goals are, and getting to know each other. We met again Tuesday, and she finally decided to ask the obvious questions about what made me not to be involved. How did I feel? What went through my mind? Did I ever think about her, etc.? I had been thinking about what to do, but in that moment, I just didn't have it in me to lie, so I was honest. That I was told about the termination and had no idea she even existed until now. But that I still really want to be in her life and have the chance to be her father if she wants that. Kara was a bit emotional. We talked some more, and said she still wants me involved. That night, my messages were blowing up. Not just from Rob, but her grandparents as well. They're all outraged for telling Kara about her mom because she yelled at all of them and is refusing to even take their calls. Yes, the lie was terrible, but I just ruined the image she had of her late mother for my own benefit. Rob called me a selfish prick for not taking into consideration how this would affect Kara finding out about this. So right now, I feel crap. I get honesty is the best policy, but in this case, I don't know if I was an a-hole for doing it. I'm still learning this whole dad business, so I don't know if I dropped the ball here. Not an a-hole. Your ex lied. Your ex created this mess. I'm sorry she has passed, but she did this. You have no obligation to continue a lie you had no part of. Your daughter deserved the truth. Exactly. Opie, you were the victim of someone else's long-term lie. Your daughter's uncle tried to coerce you to continue a lie that would only serve to hurt you, in favor of your daughter's mother. That is not fair to you. My advice is to keep your head down, avoid responding or stirring up more drama, and this too shall pass. Then you can continue building your own relationship with your daughter on your terms. Not a a-hole. You said fast forward 19 years later? So your daughter is 19 now. She's an adult and deserves to know the truth. You should not be expected to make yourself out to be a deadbeat dad just to avoid tainting the memory of her mother. Not an a-hole. Exactly. If she was 9, it wouldn't be appropriate, but an 18-year-old adult needs to know the truth. Not an a-hole. The people who lied to her for her entire life are to blame for her being upset at the lies. You are not obligated to take the heat for the lies of others. I do hope you are planning on staying in her life now. It would be terrible to drop that info and disappear. But if you stick around, she deserves to know the truth, so that your newly found connection isn't built on a lie from the start. I intend to be in her life. It makes me very sad that I already missed out on so much, and I want the opportunity to build something with her. It would be awful to just leave when there's finally a chance to be her father. Am I the a-hole for what I told my mother-in-law when she asked to be in the delivery room? My husband, male 33, and I, female 30, are expecting a baby boy, and we're barely catching up with preparation and getting everything ready. His mom, kind of a busybody type but can be helpful at times, invited us for dinner and said she has an important request to make. She brought a request up at dinner table and blatantly said that she wanted to be in the delivery room with me when I give birth. I was taken aback by her request. I really thought it had something to do with a nursery or diaper brand. I said I was sorry, but only my mom and my husband will be there. She made a face, got quiet for a while, then brought it up again. Just kept pushing, saying she is as much of a grandmother as my mom, and that she just wanted to be there for support and get the opportunity to see her grandbaby's first moments. And my husband sided with her. I just stared at her and said, "It's all right. You can have the opportunity to be in the delivery room when it's your son who's giving birth." Everyone stopped eating, and my mother-in-law left the table in an instant. My husband had me got up, although I wasn't finished with dinner, but he said we should leave. In the car, he lost it on me asking what brain cell made me think it was a good idea to tell his mom that. I told him his mom kept pushing after I'd already given her an answer. Still, he said this was the most messed up stuff he heard me say. I replied that I was just frustrated and didn't mean to hurt her feelings and cause issues. He argued that if I don't want issues, then I should stop making things difficult and just say yes to his mom's request. He then ranted about how it's his son too, and then said if his mom isn't allowed in there, then he won't be there too. Now, I don't know if he really meant this or just said it in the heat of the moment, but it had me fuming. He's been ignoring me when I try to talk to him and act like I'm not in the room. I think I might have gone too far and created tension by responding inappropriately. Am I the a-hole? Edit. There has been some tension between me, my husband, and his family lately, and this probably blew up because of built-up resentment. Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Actually, what you said makes sense as we're talking about your body here. The reality is that your mother-in-law just did you a favor here, because your husband siding with her is showing issues in your marriage and the difficulties you're going to face when it comes to decisions about your pregnancy or your child. I would tell him that if he doesn't come into the delivery room when I give birth, and if he's not supportive of my decision concerning my body, our marriage will be over, and he shouldn't bother coming to the hospital at all, because he will have to wait until I go back to my parents to meet our son. Go see a lawyer to prepare for a divorce just in case, and try to get an appointment with a therapist to help you through all of it. This. Opie needs to prepare herself for the worst outcome. Mother-in-law literally ambushed her by making that request in front of everyone and not taking no as an answer. There are a million reasons to why Opie just wants her mother and husband in the delivery room. Her husband is behaving like a mama's boy and probably thinks that throwing a tantrum like, "If she's not there, I won't be there as well," will make Opie change her stance. This can become a bigger problem in the future with other parenting decisions at stake. I agree with your advice. Opie should seek a lawyer and be prepared. They want to play like kids, but someone needs to remind them all that no means no, and actions required consequences. Not to mention, I believe that the husband set this up. He was way too quick to defend his mother and insist Opie give in to her request at dinner. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to move my husband into a home on his dime? I, 48 female, married my husband, 66 male, 23 years ago. Yes, there was a large age gap. He had a wife and children, and he left her for me. There were problems in that marriage that I won't touch on, and he and I have been happy. His children, 38 male, 36 male, 32 female, and I have never gotten along very well, and the relationship between him and his children have been strained. This is the dynamic, and not what I'm here to be judged on. He was the breadwinner of the household, and I did some part-time work, but that was about it. But we've lived comfortably even after his retirement 5 years ago. My husband was diagnosed with Alzheimer's about a year ago. He's been getting worse very quickly, and while I've done my best, his care is becoming too much for me to the point where I've made a difficult decision that I cannot provide what is needed. I've looked through a lot of options, and I've chosen to move him into a home with specialized care for his condition. I did tell his children, who knew of his diagnosis, about my choice since I felt they had a right to know. Now they're furious with me, claiming it's unfair for me to do that, telling me that I wrecked their home only to not keep my marriage vows of in sickness and in health to him, and saying that I've always been a gold digger, and my choice to use his money to send him away proves that. Obviously it hurt. I vented to a friend of mine who told me that she did think it was cold of me to stop caring for him, as he will most likely decline more rapidly. Now I'm starting to feel bad for the choice I've made. My friend suggested that I should make the commitment of taking a class or something to learn how to care for him. It agreed with his children that I signed up for this when I got with a married man. Am I the a-hole for wanting to move my husband into a care home? Edit. For more information regarding finances, I'm using his money to ensure he gets the best care possible, because insurance will not cover everything. Even if I went back to work, I would not make enough on my own. I'd like to say that I'm all on my own regarding care for him. The children will not see him, nor will they be involved, because the relationship is strained due to the divorce and remarriage. Some people do not like that I did not include a paragraph explaining how much I love my husband and how I personally feel towards the children and him in the situation. I chose to respect the word count and to try to be as objective as possible. I have been happily married for nearly 25 years, and he truly is the love of my life. I want to care for him, but I cannot provide the 24/7 care necessary, and the layout of our house is not suitable for him. So it's been determined that it's easier on him to deal with a full-time transition team at a home than it is to move him with me and then try to tackle his regression and messed up routine. I also had questions of why I haven't looked into other options or if I spoke to the doctors. We had a very terrifying elopement incident which ended in some violence towards emergency services. That has really triggered this move to a care home. I'm looking for the best possible care for him, and the doctors have been wonderful in support and assistance. They have assured me that I am not abandoning him by getting him the care he needs. People ask, will I visit? The answer is that if COVID policies permit, the answer is yes. I will make it a point to visit often until it is no longer helpful, which I have been warned can happen. Finally, to everyone who has shared their personal experience caring for someone in a similar condition, thank you very much, and my heart goes out to each and every one of you. You are in my thoughts and prayers. I'm sorry that I cannot reply to everyone. This is beyond the scope of the sub. Advice from your husband's doctors and Alzheimer's support groups would be a better source of information for making a decision like this. Involving his children in the discussion would probably help them understand and accept your choice, but it's still your choice. I've tried to involve them where I can, but because of how the first marriage ended and everything, there has always been a strain and resentment there. They've never really looked at him the same way for it, especially the oldest. They want nothing to do with it and claim that since I married him, it's my responsibility. His care has been put entirely on me, and I'm honestly at the point where I cannot do what I need to. I even quit the part-time job that I had at the time. I do love him and I want him to be home, but the doctors agreed that if it gets to be too much, he needs help. Opie, get a full-time job. Those kids may have opinions, but they're not going to support you when you're old. To all the people calling Opie a gold digger, it is incredibly expensive to pay for a long-term care for an Alzheimer's patient. It is also extraordinarily difficult for one person alone to care for someone like this at home. Opie is not the a-hole. She's paying out thousands and thousands of dollars to the care facility every year to make sure her husband is clean, fed, given therapy, and is monitored 24/7 to keep him safe. I wonder if the husband's adult children are upset that any potential inheritance they might have had is going towards their father's care. Also, the people who want to throw in sickness and in health in Opie's face are not understanding it is close to impossible for one person to monitor and provide adequate care for an Alzheimer's patient. Opie made the most expensive, but safest choice for her husband. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my girlfriend that yes, the gym is more important to me than her and her daughter? I, 32 male, have been dating my girlfriend, 29 female, for about 18 months, and she has the cutest little 4-year-old daughter from a previous relationship. As our relationship has progressed, I've been spending more and more time at my girlfriend's place to the point that I've all but moved in with them. This is mostly just because it's logistically easier for me to go to her place since she has a kid and I don't. I work from 4:30 p.m. to 2:30 a.m. I get to bed by 4 a.m. and then wake up around noon. And then on most days, head off to the gym and spend about 2 hours there total. I like to work out. It makes me feel good, keeps me healthy, and I also consider it a professional responsibility to stay in shape. Working 10-hour shifts means that I don't have a ton of time in between shifts, but that I also have more days off than most working people. This was never a problem until I, basically, moved in with my girlfriend. Suddenly, lately, when I wake up and try to head off to gym, she's all, "Oh, it's all about you, huh?" Or, "You only care about doing what you need to do. Daughter doesn't understand why you are leaving and why you don't want to spend time with us." The last time, things came to a head. When my girlfriend started objecting to my going to the gym, I told her, "I'll see you and daughter for a little bit before I go off to work. And then tomorrow I'm off and don't have a workout scheduled, so we'll have the whole day together. But I have to get my workout in today. It's a priority." She then responded, "So the gym is a priority, but me and daughter aren't? If you want to be part of this family, it's not all about you anymore. So what's more important to you, the gym or us?" I responded, "Well, if you're going to force me to choose instead of making room for something that you know is important to me, then I guess I have to choose the gym." I then left. I'm sitting in my own apartment now. Things may be over. In fairness, I should note that she wasn't insisting that I never go to the gym again. She just wanted to renegotiate my schedule. But I was unwilling because I felt as if that would get in the way of my goals. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. You're the a-hole. Not for prioritizing the gym so much, but for basically moving into her home when you weren't serious about her. It's hard on kids to have parental type figures come and go a lot. Makes their lives less secure. Don't jerk kids around. In what way did he show he wasn't serious? In what way did he jerk kids around? By going to the gym? Furthermore, isn't it the mom's responsibility to make this clear before he moves in? OP isn't a parent and may not have realized his role as a parental figure. You're right. The mom and guy should have talked stuff out. But the part where he made it clear he wasn't serious was when, in comparison to spending time with a child, he said that the gym was his priority, and he was unwilling to negotiate to a solution. He'd try to live with someone without making the necessary adjustments to his life. First off, it's not his kid, and I guarantee that will be made very obvious the second she needs it to be. Keep that in mind. Second of all, parents or parental figures need to have alone time for hobbies that keep them healthy. Going to the gym is one of those. It is not only good for his health, but set a great example for the kid. What he was explaining was that there needs to be a balance and both parents need to help each other find that balance. Forcing one parent to give up something as essential as the gym because that time could be spent with her and her daughter is toxic. Not every waking moment that is not at work needs to be with a kid, especially if that time away from the kid is used in a healthy and productive way like working out. Also, giving an ultimatum is not a great way to go about getting what you want either. He's not saying he chooses the gym over the daughter. He's saying he chooses the gym over this behavior. This feels more like incompatibility than a-hole territory. I also kind of feel like you were backed into making a choice. She gave you an either-or question, which of course sounds terrible. I'm going no a-holes here because it just seems like your lives don't seem to be a good fit. Not everyone fits together, and that's okay. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my fiancé's friend she isn't my problem and I don't care about her feelings? My fiancé and I are getting married in 2023. My best friend and best man is going to have a year-old kid by the time of our wedding, and he and his wife are planning on coming out from out of the country to support us, so we decided to have the kiddo be the ring bearer. Over the weekend, my fiancé had some friends over. Her best friend's sister, let's call her Abby, came too. Context. Abby briefly dated my best friend in uni. She cheated on him and he kicked her to the curb. It's ancient history, but I'm not fond of the girl in full transparency. So my fiancé and her friends were hanging out, talking wedding things, and they got a bit tipsy. And my fiancé starts yelling excitedly for me to bring the mini tux photo. My buddy sent me some pictures of tux onesies for his kid, our ring bearer, to get fiancé and I's approval of what we wanted them to get, so that's what she wanted. I came in and showed them, and they were all going crazy over how cute it was. Suddenly, Abby grabs my phone out of my hand and practically screams in my face. Wait, he's your best man? I get she was tipsy, but it really pissed me off. I took my phone back and told her not to yell in my face. So she turns to my fiancé and loudly says, "You can't let him, me, invite him." My fiancé looked puzzled, but her best friend was just like, "Abby, that's his best friend. Chill out." Then this girl starts crying and says she's going to have such an awkward time if he's there and she's single. It was ridiculous. I just left and went back to the living room, and I heard her sister tell her to grow up. So I thought it was dealt with. A few hours later, she cornered me in the kitchen while I was grabbing a beer and started begging me to not invite my best friend to my own damn wedding. She told me it would trigger her anxiety, and that if I cared about her feelings and really am a mental health advocate, mental health is huge to me, but not when it's weaponized. I would at least have him just be a guest. I was freaking floored by her audacity. I told her she wasn't my problem, and I didn't care about her feelings on this. I also told her I'd have a better time personally if she didn't come, so maybe she shouldn't if it would impact her mental state. Well, she started crying again and ran and told all the girls. My fiancé says she doesn't think I did the wrong thing necessarily, but that I didn't need to be so harsh. Some of the other girls gave me dirty looks as they were leaving. I've been feeling guilty because usually I wouldn't speak to someone like that, but I felt she was really crossing a line. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. How entitled is she? Your fiancé's best friend's sister is trying to dictate who you have as best man? Seriously, that is messed up. I think you handled it absolutely brilliantly. You were clear, concise, and polite until she went too far. She crossed the line and you stood firm. That's a great comment. Same thinking for me. My man, it's your wedding. Your wedding. You invite whoever you please, and nobody can say otherwise. This girl has, as you rightly pointed out, tried to emotionally blackmail you by weaponizing her mental health. So she's immediately the a-hole. I'm glad you stood up for yourself, your friend, and your principles. You've done absolutely the right thing. I think, as your wife said, you were a bit harsh, but that can't be helped now. You were obviously irate at a time, and she was tipsy, so it blew up more than it should have, but you're in the right. So yeah, don't sweat it, King. You're all gravy. If this Abby girl has anxiety about an ex she cheated on, she needs a reality check in my opinion. Your friend has moved on, got married, and had a baby. You literally won't even notice her. Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend a wedding when my husband is not welcome there? My 30 female friend 31 female is getting married in August. She invited me and my husband to the wedding already in October when she got engaged, and I was asked to be her maid of honor. She didn't have the dates immediately as she wasn't sure how it will be with COVID, but now she has the dates and she told me she thinks it would be better if my husband didn't come. I asked her why, and she didn't want to tell me at first, but then she said it is because he is shorter than me, and it would look weird on pictures. He has around 165 centimeters, 5 feet 4.961 inches, while I have 166 centimeters, 5 feet 5.354 inches. I think the difference is not that big, and I offered I wouldn't wear heels, but she said I must wear them because I am the maid of honor and bridesmaids will wear heels as well. I said that if my husband is not invited because of his height, I am not coming to her wedding. She said the day is about her, and not about me and my husband, and I should respect her wishes about her day. She said that she counts on me as the maid of honor, and I can't do this to her. I told her she is being shallow, and that it is either me and my husband or none of us. I talk about it with my husband, and he thinks I am not the a-hole and actually would think it would be bad of me to agree with my friend. However, he doesn't like her that much. She doesn't know that, so it couldn't play a role in it. So I'm not sure if his opinion is really objective. I asked my friend, and she said I am the a-hole because it is just one day, and it is about the bride, so I shouldn't make a drama out of it. So perhaps I'm the a-hole because I'm focusing on me being there with my husband and not at what the bride wants? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. You and your husband are 100% correct. What on earth did she think your response would be? I think both of us or neither of us is entirely fair. For someone who is about to get married, she seems to have an odd idea of what marriage entails. You can't have it both ways. It sounds like she is essentially saying my marriage is important, yours is not. Thank you so much. I really started to feel bad because of the other friends saying I should respect the bride, and it is her day. I wouldn't mind it if she just agreed with me not wearing heels, but this felt like too much to ask. I am also worried it would hurt my husband if I agree with her, and I didn't want to lie to him and pretend that the reason is something else. Not today, Hal. The bride is being very rude and shallow, and so is your other friend. Time to get new friends. Not today, Hal, and I would completely ditch this person as a friend. We have known each other for a very long time, so I don't want to end the friendship, but I think that she won't forgive me if I don't come to the wedding. Not today, Hal, and she's not a real friend. I would tell her you're not going, and unless she gives a real heartfelt apology, you're not going to be friends anymore. I don't think she will apologize. I know her for a very long time, so I don't want to lose her as a friend, but I think she will not forgive me if I didn't come to her wedding. Update. After all the support I got here, I'm making a move. I wrote her a text saying that I understand that wedding can be stressful, and she wants it to be perfect, but that it really hurts what she wanted from me. I wrote that I'm standing to what I said, and unless my husband is invited, I am not coming. I wrote I want to be there for her and help her as the maid of honor, but I can't do that if she will have superficial demands. So far, no reply. I'm giving her time till tomorrow, and then I will write her that we are not coming so I can close it. Next story. Am I the a-hole for disinviting all my friends from my wedding? I, 28 male, will be marrying my fiancé, 24 female, and we are also having a baby. Just to give a background, my fiancée Evelyn and I have been dating for 4 years, and honestly, it's been great. She is my rock, and I can't imagine my life without her. Evelyn is completely different from all the women I have dated in the past. They were tall and blondes, whereas my Evelyn is short, barely reaches my shoulder, and is a brunette. And to me, she looks like a fairy, which is also the first thought I had when I first saw her. And since then, fairy has become a nickname for me for her. My friends Dan, Jacob, and Ryan, all 28, always seemed to dislike Evelyn, especially Dan, saying she wasn't my type, but I always brushed it aside thinking they were just confused. But as they saw how serious I had gotten with her, given that my past relationships lasted less than a year, the insults and cheating accusations became frequent. And I even went 5 months without talking to them until they apologized. They were also always nice to her and didn't show any sign of hatred, so she never knew about this. Since COVID restrictions have lifted in my country, I invited all my friends to a restaurant to give them the news of our engagement and pregnancy. Evelyn and I arrived early and were sitting when our friends entered, so they didn't notice the bump she had. We all sat down and the conversation was going smoothly, but I did notice Dan getting too drunk. So my brother, who knows about the news, casually asked, "So what's the special occasion?" To which I smiled brightly and showed our rings to everyone and announcing our engagement and also about the baby. And the chaos unfolded. Dan suddenly threw his glass on the floor, screamed, "You freaking loose woman," pointing at my Evelyn, which had us all taken aback. Jacob tried to hold him back, but he kept spouting profanities and saying, "You can't have his child. The freaking fairy's pregnant. And how freaking dare you?" until the restaurant kicked us out. I was so shocked I couldn't even process anything. So me and Evelyn just left while she cried the entire way home. I'm now learning that Dan had a thing for Evelyn ever since I introduced her. And he always hoped I would break up with her so he could have her, which is why he always bad-mouthed her while we were dating. But the most shocking thing, which I learned, was all of my friends, especially Jacob and Ryan, helped Dan or either knew about it and didn't tell me. So enraged, I disinvited everyone for my wedding, and it has been a month since this happened. My parents, my sisters, and close relatives keep pressuring me to invite my friends, Dan excluded, to the wedding. Since the wedding is approaching, my parents called me an a-hole for not inviting any of my friends. And now even I'm reconsidering everything since all of my friends did apologize. But at the same time, they completely broke my trust and almost made me lose the woman I love. So am I the a-hole for disinviting all my friends from my wedding? Not the a-hole. Sorry to say, but they aren't your friends. Do not allow anyone at your wedding, or in your social life for that matter, who will harass and disparage your partner. Best wishes on your new baby and marriage. Not today, Hall. Dan's feelings are one thing, but Jacob and Ryan helped him to try to sabotage Opie's relationship. And for what? Did they think Opie would just be okay with Dan dating his ex? Don't date your friend's ex's bro code 101. Also, sounds like they fed Dan's delusions. Any sane person would have told Dan to move on long ago. These guys are toxic and shouldn't be in Opie's life. What made Dan think if she wasn't with Opie, she would be with him? That was mighty confident of him/them to assume. Or did he think because he was calling dibs she was going to fall into his arms? I don't know. I have questions. Did he/they know her before she was introduced to them by Opie? Were they ever involved? In any case, these don't seem much like friends to me. Weddings are for family and friends, and they don't really meet the criteria. Marriages need a supportive people who support the marriage. People who don't add cracks to its foundation in a myriad of ways if you're not careful. Not today, Hull. Obviously not today, Hull. And you need to tell your family exactly why they're not invited, so you can prevent any sort of sneaky secret invites. Do not let these ex-friends come to your wedding. Best of luck on your new life with your happy little family. Thanks. I'm trying to reason with my family, but they seemed adamant, and I have a feeling that they know more than they are letting on. Not today, Hull. Frankly, don't understand why your family cares. I'm trying to figure it out too. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for getting married before my sister who got engaged before me? My sister's boyfriend proposed about 2 years ago. At that time, they had only been dating for 1.5 years, so while everyone was happy for them, it was quite a shock. We asked if they were going down the traditional route and get married within a year, but they said that they were not and would maybe get married in 2 to 3 years. At the time of their engagement, my boyfriend and I had been together for 4 years and were not engaged. A couple of weeks back, my boyfriend proposed and I said yes. We announced it and also set a date for our wedding, which will be in a couple of months. My sister and I are very close, but she seemed pretty put off by our announcement for some reason. I asked her about it, and she confessed that she thought I was being inconsiderate by getting married before her, since she got engaged earlier. Personally, I feel like you can't expect other people not to get married just because you're engaged. It would be one thing if they got engaged and set a date, but they both said that they would probably wait for a couple of years to get married. I asked if they were planning something soon, and if that was why she was upset, but she said that was not the case. Since we are close and usually get along, I wonder if I really did something wrong based on her reaction. I can understand that they might have wanted to get married first, but it also seems weird to expect my boyfriend and I to just wait for who knows how long to get married. Now for the comments. Not today, Hull. Does she really expect no one to get married for 5 to 8 years while they make up their minds? So not today, Hull. That being said, you might try to be kind, in case her real problem is her boyfriend proposed with no plan to actually get married, and she wants to get married badly. If she really isn't ready to get married to, then she is very self-centered. Agree. Plus, by the sister's own logic, it was inconsiderate of her and her boyfriend to get engaged first, since Opie has been in a relationship longer. This is exactly what I was thinking. I wonder what Opie's sister would say if Opie told her this. When I first read the title, I thought the sister had already chosen a date, and the date was gonna be sometime soon, but delayed due to the bug or something. This just makes no sense. Opie gets engaged, but they aren't allowed to get married for 5 years because they have to wait on her sister who has no idea? Lol. Not today, Hull. You snooze, you lose. If she wanted to get married first, she should have done something about it. Not today, Hull. She's making it seem like you maliciously planned to get married before her, when obviously that's not the case. You said it yourself. Just because she's engaged doesn't mean other people can't get married as well. I don't think she's making it seem like they did so maliciously. She's suggesting that they were inconsiderate in doing so. Malice and negligence are different. The issue with her idea is that it only makes sense to think of planning your wedding before someone else is married as wrongdoing if you did it maliciously. I don't think you owe people any consideration in happening to plan a wedding before them, so you can't negligently plan a wedding first. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for telling my half-sister I don't want her mom to come to my wedding? Half-sister and I share the same bio dad. He died when I was 4 and before her mom knew she was pregnant. We didn't know each other growing up and we only met about 2 years ago. After our dad died, my mom kept full custody of me. Half-sister's mom, who was married to our dad, wanted to split custody still. My mom said no. Half-sister's mom was pissed and when she found out she was pregnant, never made contact again. My half-sister reached out 2.5 years ago. Told me the story, we had a DNA test done, and it confirmed we're half-sisters. The relationship has been difficult. She blames my mom for us not growing up together. She believes even though her mom never told my mom she was pregnant, that if my mom had been willing to share me and let me grow up with 2 moms and 2 households, then none of this would have happened. I just view it as that's life sometimes, and while my mom could have allowed it, I'm really glad she didn't. It's not like I was old enough to remember her mom. I completely forgot about her. But her mom ended up remarrying, so it adds another layer of difficulty. But regardless, it is one thing that has always been between us. Her mom is now seeing our meeting and building a relationship as a chance to have a relationship with me, and I'm not interested. At all. I'm getting married this summer, and my half-sister was invited. She wanted an invite for her mom, and stepdad/dad by extension. I said no. She told me she's my stepmom and should be invited. I told her she's a stranger, not my stepmom, and not someone I would be comfortable having at my wedding. Half-sister is mad and thinks I'm being petty and mean to someone who never had a choice in losing touch with me. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your wedding, your rules. Also, how is she a stepmom to you if she's a stranger basically? That's a hilarious concept. She was married to my dad before he died and was in my life for a couple of years. So to them, that makes her still my stepmom. She was your stepmom for a short time and before we even hit elementary. That's a stranger. Not the a-hole. It's your wedding, you get to choose the guests invited. If you don't really know this woman and are uninterested in having a relationship with her, then you are well within your rights to not invite her. Do understand though that if you do not invite her, your half-sister is likely to back out of having any relationship with you. I'm fine with that if it happens. If she's going to be petty about putting her mother first, without recognizing that the woman did nothing to have a relationship with you for years, or facilitating you have a relationship with your sisters, then it's probably for the best if she walks. Not the a-hole. I hate seeing stories where a surprise sibling is suddenly being pushed to have a relationship with people they don't even know. It's your wedding, it's your choice, and they just have to suck it up. Not the a-hole. It's your wedding, your guest list. You're under no obligation to pretend a closeness that doesn't exist. You've done nothing wrong. You didn't create this messy situation you happened to get born into. Your half-sister might not have been an a-hole to ask once, but she's a jerk for sulking after being told no.